she's let's see. So just as a quick backdrop here, we Connie and I left for Brazil at the end of last August. We had a whirlwind tour, birding tour of the Pantanal, mostly in the Pantanal, and then also we were up in the highlands a little bit on the edge of the Pantanal, probably the northeast northeast edge of the Pantanal. So we're getting some higher level kinds of birds up there as well as other critters. Um, and let's see, just make sure, is this recording now? How can
Yes,
you
it
tell?
is.
It is. It is. Okay, good.
I got the message that it was. It is. Yeah.
You did. Okay, wonderful.
Mhm.
Um, so we had planned to actually travel on Air Canada, but they went on strike just before we left. So we had to rearrange madly. Thanks, Connie, to taking care of all those arrangements. So we had to fly or get down to the States and fly from the States. And it was a bit of a rigmarole getting the right flight going. And so anyway, we ended up flying out of Miami um, to Sao Paulo, which is about a 9.5 hour flight. And this is the screen you see on the back of your seat, when you're flying on the bigger airplanes. And we were right over the Amazon on at this point here. And unfortunately, it was cloudy down below, and I couldn't see a darn thing down there. But anyway, I was able to say, "Yep, we're just above the Amazon." Okay, thanks. And so here's Brazil, just to give you an idea of sort of what it looks like for those of you that aren't from South America. So Brazil, it's a big country. We flew into Sao Paulo as Connie is circling there, and then we flew from Sao Paulo over to Cuiabá, and that was about a 2 hour flight. So it kind of tells you how big the country is. And then from there, we here's the flight. You can
Here's
see
that 2 hour flight that is,
that, yeah,
yeah.
that's the 2 hour flight, the straight path. And then we had a van that the organizer arranged for us, and this is where we went on in the van there. So it was down towards the south, and then later up into the Cerrado um, at
Yeah.
the end of the trip.
To Chapada dos Guimaras. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for that. You're better at pronouncing those words than I am.
I just
And
fake
so,
it better, Scott.
uh, and so here, the colored region, the purple area there, is the area where the Pantanal is. And the Pantanal it's a wetland. It's like a seasonal wetland. We were there just towards the end of the dry season. And so the rains were going to start maybe in a few weeks after we left. So yeah, they usually start in October, I think it is. But when they are flooded, 80% of that land is completely covered with water. And then there's these islands that the wildlife find shelter on. But as you can see, most of the Pantanal is in Brazil, and it also stretches into Bolivia a little bit and a tiny bit into Paraguay down here. The Pantanal is actually, as you can see on the map, the Amazon is up north. And
Okay.
there's a higher area between Pantanal and the Amazon. And so actually the water, its flow is actually down towards Paraguay. It's on the river Paraguay down towards there. It doesn't flow back into the Amazon. And let's see, what else do we know? So the Pantanal, size-wise, it's about as large as the state of Washington or the country of Germany. So it's an amazingly large area. Okay, let's move on.
All right.
Sure.
So this was the Cuiabá, the first city that we stopped in and where we got on the van that Scott was telling you about. And this is a photograph we took from the restaurant. So we're up a few flights, and as you can see, it's very flat there in this part of Brazil. And so we're going to be following a chronological order as we go through. And you really know you're on a birding trip when your hotel gives you a little bird sticker on your toilet paper roll. So this is how we knew we were in the right place. And this is our van and our driver at our very first stop. As soon as we got to Cuiabá, we checked into our hotel and then we all hopped in the van. It was, gosh, it was what, 38 degrees that day. It was really hot. It was so hot. And so we headed to this park. This is the May Bonifica Park, which is in the city of Cuiabá. And this is our van driver here, and Lelis, our guide, is standing back here with his spotting scope and the other participants in our trip. It was a small group. This is all of us there with just, I was taking the pictures, so you can see we were a very small group. And so that's the way we traveled with this group of folks. And this is Scott getting his first taste of taking pictures of birds in Brazil. So he's going to start telling you about the birds. We saw 45 species the very first evening when we were there.
And here's one of the first birds that we were looking at. This is Rufus hornero. Okay, now I'm not going to be able to remember all these bird names, but I have them written down here. So that's what this is important sheet of paper here. But yes, this is a Rufus hornero. It's a lovely little bird, about the size of a robin, and common like robins are. There are quite a few around. And this is a great kiskadee. It's a very noisy bird as well, very common with a similar color scheme as other kiskadees species. There's other ones. There's the lesser kiskadee, boat-billed, etc., etc. And they all look quite similar. But if you hear what they're saying, then it's easy to tell the difference. So as long as you're in tune with their call or their song, then you can identify them quite well. And let's see. We used Merlin down there actually, and it works quite well down there. A warning comes up when we're using it. Says what 60% of the birds
Yeah, it doesn't recognize them
are
all.
available, but we found it pretty useful along the
Mhm.
way.
This is a bird you might actually see in southern Texas, but
Yeah,
here's the next one.
great Kiskadee, yeah, yep.
Mhm.
Now this is called a great ant shrike. It's as you can see, it's a striking black and white bird with bright red eyes. And it feeds largely on insects and other arthropods. They will also take small vertebrates and mollusks. And members of the antbird family are known to follow swarms of army ants. And they eat the fleeing insects, hence their name. It's not that they necessarily eat ants, but they chase the army ants. They follow the army ants through the forest, and all the other insects get out of the way, so they catch them on the way out. Yeah, and this big fella is a green iguana. Let's get my paper here set up. And so these they're quite common there. Um, we've also seen them in Florida, I believe. Florida. So they do reach up here a little bit, up to North America. They have an interesting thing is that they have a photosensory organ on the top of their heads, and it's called the parietal eye. The third eye can't form images, but it is sensitive to changes in lightness and darkness. And so they can see movement above them, and so they can detect predators coming down from above. Thank you. And this is a beautiful little bird. It's called a rufous-tailed jacamar, and it's someone said in some of the research I was doing on this, someone said it's like a hummingbird increased in size to a starling. So it's just a gorgeous little thing. And so they forage from a perch in the forest on like an exposed branch, and it's usually only 1 to 3 meters above the ground. And then they sally out to catch insects on the wing, like our flycatchers do.
And that's exactly how Scott captured this amazing picture. It was just so close to the trail, right on this branch,
Yeah,
fully
it's just
exposed
above
to
the.
us.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, so this is a masked gnatcatcher. It forages for small insects in the canopy, most often by gleaning while hopping on branches. It also hover gleans and sallies out for flying prey. So you know what hover gleaning is? It's like what the kinglets do. They kind of hover and glean on the branches and leaves of trees around this area. Okay, and this is a white wedged piculet. It's such a cute little woodpecker. It's actually slightly smaller than a chickadee, really tiny woodpecker. And they're found in Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, and Paraguay.
So this is one of the structures that we became familiar with while we were in Brazil. This is actually an ant nest. And so many of the birds we're going to be talking about have ant in their name because ants provide food for a lot of the birds and animals that you're going to see. So that's whenever we saw those, we were watching for other animals to be nearby. And this next is a video, and hopefully you'll be able to hear a little bit of the sounds of this video. And it's getting very near dark. And so this is the quality of the video is not great, but if you look really closely, you'll see a lesser anteater. It's called a tamandua or lesser anteater, and they have sharp claws and forearms where they tear open termite colonies or branches, like you'll see it here. And they have elongated tongues with sticky saliva, and they extract the insects. So I'll just let you watch him here on the branch and see when he notices us watching him. And then off he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. I don't know why it did that. Let's hang on a second. It just was, I don't know why you're seeing that. Hang on just a
Oh,
second. I'm gonna escape out of this and see if I can get out of this. There we go. Oops. Sorry about that. We'll just get this back open again.
I see grandkids there.
I know that's a really great thing, and I don't know why it's not doing my full screen. It took away that. Okay, let's see if it'll come back up the way we want it. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Okay, so let's see. View, enter full screen. There we go. Okay, so after we would go birding in the evenings, we would uh, sit down with our guide. Here is Lellis again. Here's our guide, and he's actually internationally known for his expertise in birding. We were so lucky to go with him. He's was around when a species was first described and has a lot of research credits to his name. But we all had a notebook. And in our notebook, we had a list of the species that we might see. And so we would all track them and everybody would share the sightings and talk about and review the species we'd seen. Because we would be up at 6 in the morning out birding and then come in for meals and be resting in the heat of the day and then birding again in the evening. And this is the next day we left Cuiabá on our way to the Pantanal, and we stopped at this particular park. This park is called Toro. No, this park is called Nossa Senhora do Livramento, the Parque Zooflorestal Urbano José de Arruda. And so this was a park where a lot of people were actually exercising at 6 in the morning, and we saw 35 species at this particular park. So Scott's going to tell you about what we saw there.
Okay, and so some of the first birds we saw were these blue-crowned parakeets. You just barely see the blue on their heads. Sometimes that's more pronounced than other times. But anyway, this is a large parakeet, and parakeets, as you probably all know, are in the parrot family, so they are parrots. And another example of the parakeets are the budgerigar, the common budgerigar or budgie. That's also a parakeet. And this is a rufous-browed pepper shrike, and beautiful little bird, very active, looking around there. It's actually not a shrike, in spite of the name. It's a large vireo. Yeah, little hook on the end of the pepper shrike. And this is a peach-fronted parakeet. Brazil has the highest diversity of parrots in the world, with approximately 85 different species, um, which includes macaws and the parakeets. Okay, this is a smooth-billed Ani. Ani. I was saying Annie, but I think it's Ani.
Ani, yes.
So this is a member of the cuckoo family, distinguished by its all black plumage, long tail, and large beak. As you can see, it's got quite the chance there. It is known for its communal breeding system, in which a number of females typically lay eggs and incubate in the same nest.
So we're back in the van on our way out into the Pantanal. So this was the typical highway scene with the low trees and that really, really flat roadway there with our driver and Lilith always in the front. And whenever we would see a bird alongside the road, we would pull over. And here's an example of one that we saw.
Which is a red-legged Sariema. Lovely little birds. And
Kind of big, I think, Scott.
it is quite large. Yeah, it's what, I don't know, a meter tall or so.
Mhm.
Uh, and it's similar in appearance to the secretary bird of Africa, but they're not related.
And here's
Thank you.
another way you know you're on a birding trip. So this is the gas station. We stopped for gas, and of course, all the birders of our group got out. And you can see this is the attendant here. People are pointing at birds and goofing off while we were there. And this is one of the birds we saw at the gas station.
Mhm. And this is a cattle tyrant, and it's a flycatcher. As the name implies, cattle tyrants sometimes perch on the backs of cattle and horses, making quick sallies to the ground or in the air to catch insects flushed up by the livestock. And this is one of the more common birds that we saw on the trip.
So
Real
after we
pretty
left
bird.
after we left the gas station, we stopped by the side of the road at a bunch of ponds. So here's one of the first things we saw at a big pond.
Yeah, it's a capybara, and they're they're the largest living rodent. It is native throughout most of South America. Close relatives include guinea pigs and rock cavies. It is also more distantly related to agouti, chinchilla, and nutria. Uh, the capybara inhabits savannas and dense forests and lives near bodies of water. It is highly social species and can be found in groups or herds, as they're known, as um, as large as 100 individuals. But usually they come in 10 to 20 individuals in the group. Very endearing animals. This is a snail kite. And this is like a medium-sized raptor, maybe the size of an osprey, I would think. And it's called a snail kite for a reason. They eat snails. And here, I'll show you they eat these snails. They're called apple snails. They're huge. And so that's what they eat. I don't know, 90% of the time. I can pass this around in a minute. But yeah, the is there a snail? I think maybe they are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think they are. Yes. Yeah. Good point. But we were watching them. They just you cruise over the wetlands. Just a few feet above the water surface, and spot the snails, and down they go. Let's see. Where am I
All
getting
right.
off
No,
fixed
you're
here?
good.
Okay.
And so then,
Okay. Okay.
as we kept driving, we got to the end of the paved road, and this began rather a long drive on washboard road through Brazil. And we continued to stop at ponds along the road, and this is what they would look like. And we saw 19 species just in this one pond area. And here's an example of some of the things we saw.
And this is a limbkin. Actually, those birds are in Florida too. And they're also an apple snail fan. And if they can't find the snails, they'll also feed on other snail species and mussels. Okay, so this is a white-faced whistling duck, or a group of them. Uh, the let's see, as well as Brazil and other parts of South America, it is also found in southern portion of the African continent.
And back on the road, we were faced with a Brazil traffic jam. This is the Pantanal is a large cattle ranch area, and so we encountered these cowboys with moving their cattle down the road. And when we were birding, we were often birding in around cows.
Okay, and this is a very stately looking great black hawk. It's about the size of our familiar red-tailed hawk, and it's a resident of the tropical New World. It is mainly a coastal bird, but it also lives in forests and open woodland near the water. And this is a real handsome heron. It's a striated heron. It gets its name from the typical striping and juveniles. And there are 9 heron species in the Pantanal, and we'll be seeing some more of those later in the talk. Here we have a black-backed water tyrant, a medium-sized tyrant flycatcher found in marshes and shrubby areas bordering watercourses where it forages for insects. And here we have a buff-necked ibis. What? Hello? Let's see, buff-necked ibis, and that's one of the many different kinds of ibis we were seeing there. Pretty bird, eh? Just red eyes. These are monk parakeets. They're quite common there and very noisy, always chattering away. And next we have a wattled jacana. It's a wader found throughout most of South America, east of the Andes. Males conduct the majority of nest building and are generally solely responsible for incubation, brooding, and caring for chicks. Um, the jacana comes from the Tupi word meaning very loud bird.
I think this is a particularly wonderful photograph that Scott got.
Yeah, he
So
just happened to have his wings open there.
yeah, it's lucky. And so we arrived at our first lodging in the Pantanal. This is Pousada Pousa Alegre in Mato Grosso, Brazil. And so this is the main building at the lodge. So the dining hall is through these windows here. And this particular structure was very important to us. That's the water filter and water cooler. It was very, very hot when we arrived there, and that's where we would go to fill our water bottles. And you can see our birding group. I'm starting to get settled here, and we had separate, beautiful buildings, very similar to this here at the Posada.
Yeah, okay. And this is getting away from birds a little bit. This is a South American coati. It's a close relative of the raccoon. They are in the same biological family. And while they seem this similar kind of masked faces and ringtails, coatis are distinguished by their longer snouts, as you can see, and upturned nose. They are diurnal, unlike the nocturnal raccoons that we're familiar with. And here's just a gorgeous bird that we were lucky enough to see just outside of the lodge. It's called an orange-backed troupial, same family of birds as our familiar bullock's oriole, Icteridae. The term troupial is from the French troupial, meaning troop, so named because they live in flocks. Okay, so this is a yellow-billed cardinal. It's native to South America. It has been transplanted to Hawaii, so I know we've seen it on our trips out to Hawaiian Islands. And in spite of its name, it's actually in the tanager family these days. Things change in the phylogenetic world.
Yeah. So after we got settled into our rooms and had a chance to look around the lodge, we went out into the Pantanal, and so the lodge is on highland, of course, and then there are these boardwalks. This is a very short one. There was another very long boardwalk where we were walking and looking for birds in the early evening hours.
All right. Yeah. So these are kingfish. They're ringed kingfishers. Sorry. And so it's a pair sitting on the the wood there, and they're much larger than our familiar belted kingfisher. The average wingspan of these fellas are 63 centimeters versus 53 centimeters of our belted kingfisher. This bird is found throughout South America and lowlands of Middle America.
And this is as we got back towards the lodge. I took a little movie here, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the bird, the songs, that all of the sounds while the birds were going back to their roost at night. And at the end there, you saw one of the birders on the trip. His name was Bart, and he was a very experienced birder and helped with a lot of the bird identification.
Yes.
Yeah, the next morning we got up really early, and they were feeding the birds. So Scott will tell you about some of the birds we saw there at the feeder.
Yeah, so this is a crested carousel with its chick. And it's actually, this picture is taken with Connie's iPhone at the feeding station. So it was a great picture. Staff put out for these feeding stations. The staff put out bird food, and they what they needed to do is break out the squirt guns with water in them to keep the capuchin monkeys and the coatis away, to give the birds a chance to get to the fruits that they put out for the birds. Um, and we saw what 27 species at this feeding station. Pretty cool. Okay, this is a crested oro pendula. It's a dramatic bird, as you can see, with amazing yellow tail. And it's in the same family as the New World blackbirds.
We're really sorry we couldn't get a video of it flying because when it flew, that yellow tail was just this amazing flash of color.
Right. This yeah, beauty is chestnut-eared aracari. It's a medium-sized toucan. The diet is primarily fruits, but it will also take birds' eggs and nestlings. This gorgeous little bird is a red-crested cardinal, similar in appearance to the yellow-billed cardinal, but with a noticeable crest. It's also in the tanager family. And here we have a head-on view of the silver-beaked tanager. As you can see, it's stunningly colored. This is a male with velvety blackish crimson heads and underparts, and it's kind of darker blackish crimson underparts and a bill that is black above and silvery white below. So that white, that's part of the bill, that white section. Uh, it kind of looks like it's not part of the bill, but it is part of the lower mandible. Okay, and this is a Toko toucan. Um, this is the quintessential toucan. Is one of the most recognizable tropical birds in the Americas. The Toko toucans are the largest species of toucan. They feed extensively on figs and other fruits, and also occasionally prey on insects and nestling birds. Okay. And these are one of the monkeys that were hanging out around the feeding station that the staff had to take the squirt gun to. So it's also called the Azaris capuchin. Sorry, it's a hooded capuchin. It's also known as the Azaris capuchin. The species is considered threatened and is protected in several areas throughout its range. Um, Again, the photo was taken with Connie's phone. It's great. This is a chestnut-bellied guan. found only in Brazil. It's a threatened, and it's threatened because of habitat loss for the most part. This is a rusty-backed ant wren pair. Pretty little birds. The male is above, the female down there and below. Their diet includes insects and spiders. It's an active forager, hopping through the interior bushes and small trees. Okay, and this is a lesser yellow-headed vulture, uh, and it's also known as a savanna vulture. It's similar looking to our turkey vulture, as you can see, but they have that yellowish kind of color on their faces. And here's one of the reptile representatives. This is an Amazon lava lizard. It's mostly a ground-dwelling uh, lizard living in termite mounds and on or under rocks and logs. It is known to run for short distances on its hind limbs because it can really get going and they'll sail across the grassland there. Here we have a greater rhea. Rheas are distantly related to the African ostriches and Australia's emu. They are South America's largest bird. Their call is a deep booming sound. And so we heard the deep booming sound while we were there. And we weren't quite sure what it was at first until our guide told us that that's actually coming from that bird. But it was a pretty interesting sound, very deep booming call. This fancy bird is a jabiru. It's a big bird with impressive wingspan stretching up to 2.8 meters. It looks ungainly on the ground, but when we saw it, it was flying. It was like a powerful flyer and even graceful up in the air. The name Jabiru comes from the indigenous Tupi-Guarani language meaning swollen neck. Good name for it, eh? Yep. And this is a Kakoi heron. It's the largest heron in South America. Very similar morphology to our great blue heron and the European gray heron. Here we have a red-throated piping guan. So there were frequent discussions that were had about the three listed species of piping guan, which our guide did not think were actually separate species. So there was a little controversy on the trail there.
And there was the red-throated, the white-throated, and blue-throated, and this one to me has like all
Yeah,
three, and that's what he was trying to say.
it looks like there's blue in there.
Yeah.
It's quite large. Let's see, what would that be? About as big as Can you go back? Can you
Oh,
go back?
sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's like
It's about
a
turkey size,
pheasant
right?
size. Yeah, turkey to
Yeah, or
pheasant
turkey.
size.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Big bird. As opposed to this one, tiny bird.
Yeah, this is a little one. And it's always going up and down the tree trunks, but it's not a woodpecker. It's a species of the ovenbird family. It's called a narrow-billed wood creeper. Lovely little bird. And this intense-looking fella is a ferruginous pygmy owl, and a similar appearance, as you can see, to its northern cousin, the northern pygmy owl. This owl is a small predator, about the same size as our northern pygmy owl, but it's got a big appetite, and it like its northern cousin, can easily take down prey up to twice its size. Ah, yes.
This is an evening shot. It's why it's a little bit blurrier than some of the other ones.
Yeah, it was an evening shot, but we were lucky to get it. So it was a big deal getting this bird. And I know our guide was very happy to we heard it first way out in the brush there. And so our guide played a recording to bring it in. And it worked. And here it came in
It's
and
the
there it is. So
ash-throated
it's
crake. Yeah.
ash-throated crake. There we go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And after we had come in from act finally finding the crake, we got to stop and admire the southern skies and the southern constellations, including the Southern Cross, which I didn't quite capture here. But the trees
Yeah.
were lit up by other people's flashlights while as we were headed back to have dinner. And the other thing that we found when we were out there at night was this Chaco granulated toad lit up by one of our birding friends' lights. And these toads will sleep underground during the day, often with two or three other toads.
They sleep under, like in burrows under the ground to avoid the heat of the day. Yeah. So this beautiful cat, it's a wild cat. It's called an ocelot, right? Ocelot. Um,
Mhm.
and they had a feeding station set up for this, just like for the birds, except for in the evening. And so it came in, and everybody had their cameras out ready to take a picture of that. So it's what I was reading is it's between 7 and 15 kilograms in weight.
Yeah. Yeah, we had mixed feelings about the feeding stations, and we also know that this small lodge was owned by a biologist, and he was trying really hard to make a living for his family, and he was being, pretty careful with his feeding efforts. So it was one of those things. The next morning, it got cooler, thank goodness, and we went on a safari. And so this is our safari vehicle. You can see our driver here, and our guide Lelis here, and one of our fellow birders here. And so we spent our day driving to more distant places on the lodge grounds, and you're going to get to see a lot of those now.
This is a red-crested finch, and I think it's one of the prettiest finches we saw in the Cerrado of Brazil. But after I did a little checking on it, and it turns out it's actually also classified as a tanager these days. So just with improved research and so on, they find that it's more closely related to the tanagers. This is a Rufous wood creeper pair, and as you can see, one of these, the ones at the top, has a morsel. It's too bad we can't zoom in,
Yeah,
but
right
anyway, it's got
there.
a little grub in its beak there. So that's a Rufous wood creeper pair. This pretty little bird it's a sun bittern, and although it resembles a short-legged heron, uh, but its closest living relative is actually the kagoo, which is a ground-dwelling rainforest bird from New Caledonia, located in the South Pacific. They are also a cryptic bird that displays their huge wings. They have a big, kind of rounded wings that exhibits a pattern that resembles large eyes there. So they do that when they feel threatened. Here we have a strange looking bird. It's called a capped heron. Its species is very distinct from other herons, being the only one with a blue beak and face and a black crown. And here's a Giara cuckoo. Despite their name, they build their own nests and don't lay eggs in other species' nests, which is called brood parasitism, um, as is the habit of the old world cuckoos, the ones that go cuckoo, cuckoo. Yeah. They also don't voice the archetypal call of the common cuckoo of Europe, but it has a more shrill hawk-like call. And so, by the way, the word Guiara means bird in Guarani, one of the native South American languages. And this is a yellow-chinned spinetail. It's a member of the South American ovenbird family. The stiff tail acts as a prop or brace, allowing them to balance on vertical branches or while gleaning insects from tangled vines. And these pretty birds are Saeka tanagers. So we have a pair of these tanagers here, and it's actually it's quite common bird in the urban areas of Southeast Brazil. This is an ibis. Whoa, this is an ibis, Plumbeus ibis, and it's named for its distinctive uniform slate gray or leaden plumage. So, plumes. This is a yellow chevron parakeet, and we heard these many times, starting well, actually all the way through the trip. This is a chochoy spinetail. And it's a lovely little bird with a yellow bib that you can see just
Yes,
barely
right
see
there.
it in the
Right
picture there.
there. Yeah.
If it was facing right on that yellow, on its throat is quite noticeable. Okay, this is a rufescent tiger heron, um, and it's named for its reddish brown neck and head and coarse barred pattern, especially in the immature. And this is the immature here. So quite impressive looking birds. Okay, and this guy is a wood stork. I believe we had those in Florida. We saw those in Florida. And we saw hundreds of them flying overhead in the evening with great egrets and spoonbills. Okay, okay. Here's a cool snake. So it's called a Chironius laurentia snake. That's the Latin from the Latin name, but it's also called a vine snake. I found later, thank goodness. Um, and we're pretty sure that it's eating a frog. If you look down below, it's got a lot of grasses and stuff in its bill, or it's in its bill, in its mouth, as well. But there are little frog's legs there if you look closely. You know. Okay, where are we? Okay. These are yeah, these vines, they're called monkey ladder vines. They're quite common in the woodlands there. And this is a glittering throated emerald. Um, and we didn't see many hummingbirds, surprisingly, there. But this is the species that we saw most frequently there. I don't think we saw more than, I don't know, what do you think, Connie, but no more than two or three types of hummingbirds, I
Yeah,
don't think.
exactly. Yeah, we didn't see
Yeah.
very many at all.
I bet they're
This
in the
was
Amazon though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This was something I was excited to see while we were there because growing up watching nature shows, you always see these huge termite mounds. And so I wanted to go look at them. This was actually a pretty small one. And of course, these are what the termites built these mounds and they make it into like a cement out of the soil. And so these structures will resist erosion. And Scott was telling me that in the rainy season, the other animals will sometimes cling to the top of the termite mounds when they're above the water. And so.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so this is a rusty margin flycatcher. It looks similar to a great kiskadee, but it's not. And yeah, I know I had to spend quite a bit of time trying to figure out the differences between these kiskadee like birds. But here we have these are colored peccaries, and a bunch of those is called a squadron. A squadron of colored peccaries. They're also known as javelina. So maybe you've heard of javelinas down in the US. So anyway, they're mostly herbivores, but they also eat insects and small vertebrates. The can we go back there?
Yeah, I'm just conscious
They're
of the
not too big.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that's true. They're like, like small pigs kind of size.
Very small
Yeah,
pigs,
yeah, yeah.
more like a spaniel.
Yeah, yeah, Spaniel's good. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, so we saw many of these. So this is the where are we? The Yakare caiman. I think they're also pronounced Jacare caiman in parts of Brazil. They're smaller than alligators, but they are still large enough to take down a large capybara or a small human. Uh, this is the Pantanal jaguar's favorite meal. And the jaguars go right in the water after them too. They don't mind going in the water. This beauty is a green kingfisher. It's a small kingfisher. It's about this two-thirds the size of a belted kingfisher. It's found in most areas of Middle America and South America, down to central Argentina. Its range also extends into southern parts of Arizona and Texas. Unlike our belted kingfisher, the rufous breast distinguishes the male individuals. kind of caught me at first. So up here, it's the other way around. And so this is here. I know Connie's moving me along here. Where are we? Fork-tailed. This is a fork-tailed flycatcher, a member of the kingbird genus, often seen perching prominently on top of fence posts or shrubs. This flycatcher sallies after insects or hovers to feed on fruit.
One of the things we did while we were on our safari day is we stayed at this pond. The pond is called Copao das Araras, which means the cup of macaws. And so you'll see why it's called that in just a minute.
Okay, and this handsome devil is called a crested caracara. It's as you can see quite handsome raptor. Ranges from the southernmost United States and northern Mexico down to Tierra del Fuego. It's a highly opportunistic feeder, feeding like from carrion to live different kinds of live prey.
And we sat very quietly in on the top of our safari vehicle. We weren't allowed to leave it. And along came this tapir. And so this is a South American tapir, and it wandered out of the brush and it walked along the pond and walked kind of not that far away from us. And this particular individual it was blind in that one eye that's towards us, but the driver and our guide had recognized him and known him for many years, so he's done quite well with the one eye. It's the largest native terrestrial mammal in the Amazon, and it's unfortunately an endangered species. We did see other tapirs also.
Hmm. Well, we were quite lucky to see this bird. It's a hyacinth macaw, and estimates vary from various sources, but it placed the number of these birds around the 5,000 individuals worldwide. So just 5,000 of these birds in existence today. The Pantanal is the last stronghold for this endangered hyacinth macaw. Um, with a length of like 1 meter, it's the largest of the flying parrots in the world. That there was a pair there. The other one's there's a cavity nest there, and the mate is in the cavity right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
our guide
gorgeous
was
bird.
thrilled.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he was very happy.
our guide was
Uh,
thrilled to see them with the nest and cavity there. And so
yeah.
after we went back to the lodge and had dinner, we came out at night. And so our guide there has a spotlight. And so we're doing our night safari there.
Why is it endangered?
Uh,
What?
Of
um,
animal trade,
that's a
feathers
big thing.
and captive birding. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. This amazing looking bird is a great patu. Great patu. It's a nocturnal bird, as you can see. It stands on the branch and looks like a stick during the day, with its eyes closed and beaks stretched up in the air. It just sits there, stock still all day. At night, it feeds on insects and the occasional bat. Okay, now getting into some mammals here. So this is a crab-eating fox. And being this giant wetland area, there's a lot of freshwater crabs there, and these foxes are actually more related to short-eared dogs of the Amazon rainforest rather than the true foxes. They are nocturnal and searching for crabs in the wet season, and mostly insects and small rodents in the dry season. And this is another crab-eating critter. It's the crab-eating raccoon. And as you can see, it's about the same size as its northern cousin. They eat crabs and other crustaceans, but will also eat amphibians, fish, insects, and other food as opportunity arises. And this bird here, if you look carefully, it's just snuggled down into the leaf litter there. You see its eye there. Can you point that? Can everybody see that? Maybe there's its eye and beak over to the left there, and then its tail is over to the right. Yeah, so this is called a common, what's it called, Connie?
Parakeet.
Parakeet. Yeah, common parakeet. It's a nightjar that feeds at night, and it jumps up from the ground with short flaps of wing to catch low-flying insects, primarily beetles. And yeah, so that was a nice thing to see at the end of the day.
So after our late night out birding at night, we were up again at 6 in the morning out into the Pantanal. So this is a real typical way that it looks. So you have to imagine that for the months of the year that it's flooded, all of that grassy area is underwater. Um, and we went back near the pond where we'd been the day before, and even though we did not see a jaguar while we were there, we saw jaguar tracks. So here's the jaguar walking down the same road that we had been walking down the day before. So we knew they were there. And we went back to the lodge, and right before we left the lodge, we saw this large lizard. So this is an Argentine black and white tegu, and so they have this very upright gait. And I was zooming in with my phone camera, so to give you an idea of how close we could get to them. But very, very large. Bird lizard flicking his tongue there. Get it off.
Yeah.
And as we left, and we're driving to our next stop, as we left the Pantanal, we saw a giant anteater out in a cow pasture. So you can see it right there. We weren't able to get a picture with Scott's fancy camera, but this is just taken with my phone. So you can see that very striking stripe of the giant anteater. And these are huge. And so they're at about 2 meters in length, and they can stand up taller than a person, and they eat up to 30,000 ants or termites a day. And they use the same method of eating as the other anteater that we showed you earlier. And we did take a few pictures of plants. So this is the catuaba. It's a medicinal plant, native to the Cerrado savanna in Brazil, and it's traditionally used in medicine there. And it's considered endangered because it's been harvested so widely. Now you get to talk about the birds, love.
You know, this is one of my favorite. Is such a character. So this was found at the edge of the Brazilian Cerrado, thanks to its loud winning song. So we heard it first, um, and so I really like its descriptive name. So the name white-eared puffbird. So it looks puffy. So I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as Scott was saying, we had left the lowlands and we had gone up onto this plateau. And so, in the parking lot is where we saw this bird of a place we went to visit.
And this is a burrowing owl, and they live in the grasslands there, deserts, and also found in deserts and other open habitats, such as the Brazilian Cerrado, where this individual was found, perched next to its burrow. They are daytime hunters, and they prey mainly on insects and small rodents. And this is a Chaco spiny lizard. It eats insects, particularly ants. It's not venomous, but I read that they can pack a powerful bite. So I was lucky we didn't try to pet it. Sure.
And this one was found right above the little gift shop area at this waterfall that we visited. And the waterfall is called Cachoeiro do Vui da Noiva, which translates as Bridal Veil Falls. And of course, we birded on the trail down to see the waterfall. So that's a picture that Scott snapped of us in the group. And I'm wearing my inappropriate birding bright pink shirt. And then this is the lovely waterfall. This is the Bridal Veil Falls there, and you can see it's in that sandstone cliff canyon there. And then I'm going to play for you a video after Scott tells you a little bit more about the red and green macaws.
Yep. So these because they nest in holes in trees and they nest in the cavities in the sandstone cliffs.
Okay, so this is from again from my phone. So forgive a little bit of the bobbling, but hopefully you can see those macaws, the red and green macaws. There's some at the waterfall, some flying around.
Yeah.
So So it echoed pretty loudly in that canyon. And this is the
Yeah.
view down from the waterfall. So looking the opposite direction into that canyon, you can see there were some trees in bloom here while we were there. And then we visited a couple of other places while we were up there. And so this is Jamaica das Araras. This is an eco lodge, and a host is actually originally from Italy. And he also helps the animals out there and feeds different animals, including some birds, and this one here.
It's an Amazonian motmot, a very impressive looking bird. We got to know them quite well. They came and were feeding this fellow
Grubs, yeah. Mario.
grubs. They were yeah, mealworm, right? Yeah, mealworm
Mealworms, yes.
grubs.
Hmm.
Yeah, beautiful bird.
And we also got to see some butterflies there. And so watch very closely. There is going to be a butterfly up in this part of this video because you just get a glimpse of the bright color. Did you see that bright blue? It just happened so fast. And this was a huge
Yeah.
butterfly, like as big as my hand. Another surprising place we went birding was at a restaurant, and this restaurant is at the Pusado Penhasco. Pusada it means inn, and while we were at this restaurant, there were a couple birds we were particularly looking for, and we also were looking at some of the wildlife. So anyway, you can talk about the tanager here. Yet another
Yes.
tanager.
Okay. Yeah. This is a white-lined tanager, female white-lined tanager. The male is actually all black, except for its underwings where there's a white bar, which is why it gets its name, white-lined tanager.
Yeah. And here's another flower that we saw there. This is called a Ruellia, and this is commonly known as a wild petunia, but they're not really that closely related to petunia plants. So.
Mhm.
And we did go for a short walk down from the restaurant because our guide knew that helmeted manakins, this very striking bird, had been seen there. And he really wanted us to see one. And unfortunately, Scott was not able to grab a picture of this one. And so one of our fellow birders, Bob Maddox, who was from Hungary, took this particular picture and allowed us to use it just because it was such a fantastic bird. And again, our guide, who had an amazing ability to make bird sounds and also had his own set of research-based bird sounds, so he was able to coax the bird into where we could see it. And that was about the end of our trip.
Yeah, so here's this is my favorite bird of the trip. I put this in last. This is called an Amazon kingfisher. It's a medium-sized kingfisher found mostly in tropical lowlands from northern Mexico south to central Argentina. And these dashing birds are about the same size as our familiar belted kingfisher.
It's another great image
Yeah,
that you got there.
yeah. So we saw. I just checked our eBird account, and we let's see, we identified 249 species of birds there. So we were happy campers there. We were birding only 7 days there. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was a fantastic trip.
Any other
All
questions
right.
or yeah.
Any questions? We didn't see any dangerous snakes. I did get bit by, I think it was a bee of some kind. It hurt like the dickens for a few minutes, but then after that, it was okay.
Very
It
quickly
serves me
cured
right because
Scott of wearing shorts.
I that was the one time I thought, oh, I got to wear shorts. It was so bloody hot, and after that, I didn't.
We did treat all of our clothes because there are a lot of mosquitoes there. We weren't in a malaria prone area, but we did treat all of our clothes with insect repellent. And we also,
Mhm.
of course, had to get our immunizations, all that stuff.
Yeah,
During a wet would be probably more in terms of.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. There were some mosquitoes, I think, but not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
We also wore insect repellent on our skin. So
When is the nesting time down there like?
Nesting. So we were there towards the end of the dry season. Yeah, yeah. And so it's south of the equator, so it's sort of like opposite to
Right.
what we would have up here.
The only young birds I remember seeing were the one that picture that you saw of the chicks there.
Mm,
Yeah. Other than
yeah.
that, I think most of the birds were done nesting for the year.
What about where the hyacinth macaw was in the, or in the tree?
Yeah, I don't know if there were any nestlings in there at that point.
Our guide said it was checking it out because they looked like they were inspecting it. And he was really into
Yeah,
the birds, and so he was watching their behaviors, and he was just excited that they had found a good nesting site there. And of course, it was near a place where they know to go to look. So, and he
yeah.
wouldn't let us get anywhere close to it, which is one of the reasons Scott's pictures are so fuzzy. He was very careful.
Maybe I was shaking too. It's like
Yeah, we were so excited.
nervous. Yeah. Any other questions?
Protected. Sir?
The species, individual species are protected, such as the hyacinth macaws. And then there's also national parks. We weren't in a designated park, but there are parks that are overall protected. The habitat is protected down there. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Huge area. The interesting thing is that most of these birds kind of like it down there. There's very little migration going on down there. There's some that were, I noticed that some of the migration maps, they would be up in the Amazon a little bit, but then back down to Pantanal. So yeah, very little
Our guide
migration.
explained to us that the Pantanal has so much biomass that there's so much food, and with the way the seasons go and the water, that the birds really don't need to go anywhere.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess migration for birds, it's really expensive. Then you get,
Yeah.
so if they don't have to, they don't go.
Yeah.
In the southern part of Brazil, that is not a story as the way the whales, but spots and very mild winters. The migration is from the lowlands to the highlands. That's the only migration that I see.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We
It's
used to see
interesting.
more of the birds that are up here that fly south for the winter. Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Where'd they go?
Like, Western tanagers.
Like us?
Maybe they just go down to Mexico and Central America and so on. I'm not sure.
She's east of the Andes. Other species that are west of we don't mix. And normally are the ones that they are west of the Rockies, they are east of the Rockies.
So
Hmm,
from my
mhm.
ignorance, the Pantanal is east of the Andes?
East of the Andes.
East.
With the Atlantic
Yeah.
side of it.
Would that burrowing all be a migrant perhaps? Because
No, they stick around.
they
Yeah.
just stay-
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Uh,
Somewhere in something. Because we used to try to see them in southern Saskatchewan,
mhm.
usually not,
Yeah,
but we were always told that they go down somewhere in something.
they do migrate somewhat. Yeah, right. Yeah, I have to look it up.
Was it foods in the posadas?
How was the food? It was they kept us well fed. Um, I don't know. It was often quite the same kind of food. There was a
Yeah,
lot
for
of
example, at the first lodge we were at, it's quite a ways out from anywhere, and so there was like generator electricity,
Mm,
and in some cases, and so there was very little fresh stuff because they had to bring in a lot of canned things. But they tried really hard to make good hearty meals for us. It was more like about hearty meals as opposed to fancy meals. When we were at the restaurant in Cuiabá, there was
yes.
a very, very fancy restaurant there with local food, very, very nice, incredibly designed. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I had to try the piranha soup there. Yeah. Yeah. So it tasted fine. Yeah.
What do you drink?
What
What do you drink?
with the food?
Yeah.
Usually I'd have a beer or something. Yeah.
Beer?
Yeah. 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 They're usually lagers. Lagers.
That's for drinking water too there, right?
carefully. We'd either drink bottled, or they had these
Purifiers, yeah.
small cisterns of water
Mhm.
that had been purified, right, or filtered.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that they said to be very careful with drinking water,
Mhm.
and don't get a nice Coke with ice if the ice is the local water. Yeah.
So
Okay.